Hey everybody, I'm back. So anyways, I had to get off for a quick minute. You know, family life is important. So anyways, I want to touch bases with you listeners and to let you know what's the get up on everything that's going on. So the new update that's going on is that right now, as we speak, Sutter Memorial Hospital in Modesto, Stanislaus County is now being fined and penalized for $71,000 in penalties for not following protocol and policies and handling their patients' care, as well as administering medications in the proper form. So, of course, you know, I'm excited, pumped up. That's the hospital that my sister passed away in. But then again, I got to think of it this way. A lot of people brought it to my attention when I was visiting my mom down there and said, well, what's going to happen next? There's not that many hospitals in Modesto. There's like one other one, whereas it's for the people who have Medi-Cal, Medicare. It's a kind of a low kind of budget hospital, and then the secondary is kind of like a middle class hospital but still accepts that type of insurance. And then you got Kaiser, which is like you got to buy into it. You have to have a family member that's actually associated with Kaiser, and if not, then you can't be a Kaiser Permanente member. So I looked at it this way. It doesn't matter how many times you change your name or who buys your company. If it's already had a bad name and you haven't changed your policies and you haven't changed your standards, you haven't been up to protocol with the, safety of your patients, the HIPAA law, or even with the Senate or the legislation who passed the policies, there's no absolute reason why you should be on ground of that hospital. There shouldn't be staff there that is not educated, let alone qualified or even aware of what's going on. So I see it like this. That is something that's going to happen. They may open another hospital. As far as my sister's story, this is what I get from my mom. I've heard tons of stories from the nurses, tons of stories from the doctors, tons of stories from the public health department, tons of stories from the actual officiant that came in and assessed my sister's case. And the news and the press, of course, makes it even worse. But from what I got was that in between she was doing better, her lungs were, getting better, then it just would go downhill for the next couple days. And then it would seem to be getting better. But to me, it's like this. Are you going to drain those lungs? Everybody's got to think of it like this. One, you need your lungs to breathe. You need your heart to beat to stay alive. You need your brain in order to function, to get that oxygen level of everything, blood circulating to the brain in order to think, process. Everything is where it needs to be in your body in order for you to survive, to live. Well, let's say that you have a heart attack, you don't have your oxygen going to your lung, and then you go into a medical coma, and then you're in that medical coma for so long, and then who's breathing for you? The machines. What's going to happen when you take off those machines? You're not going to be able to breathe on your own. Your lung isn't going to be strong enough. Well, that's exactly what happened with my sister. She was not completely fine. I mean, she was breathing. She could still talk. She could still communicate walking into the hospital. But as soon as they put her in a medical-induced coma, that's when her world, everybody's world, became shattered. She could no longer speak for herself, eat. She could no longer do anything she was doing prior to that time. And when you're on a machine and you're not receiving oxygen to your brain for the amount of time that she was, you might as well have considered her as a vegetable state and not able to receive a response to anybody or communicate. On top of that, you're not getting oxygen to your brain. You're also not getting oxygen to your lung, and you're not getting oxygen to the rest of the parts of your body. You need your brain to think. You need your brain to say, hey, keep going, keep pumping. I need to breathe in and out. Those nerves and those receptive nerves in there tell you how to move, tell you what to do, tell you how to breathe, how to think, what to say. You don't have those, then what really is going to happen? So she's in this induced coma, and she's in there for about 3 weeks, and they did not want to remove the induced coma when they said that her lungs were getting better, because they didn't want her to fight off the wires, which I don't think my sister's going to sit there and try to fight off wires knowing that her life's at jeopardy. If you explained it to her and what's going on when you revive a patient in a medical induced coma, you ask them, do you know where you are? Do you understand what's going on? Let me explain to you. You calmly talk to them in that matter so they know and they don't fight off the machines or the wires. That's not exactly what happened in this case. So, ongoing with the situation, things started to shut down on Marcelina. Her kidneys, her liver, one by one, main organs you need to survive had started to shut down, because this medical induced coma, you're not receiving no response to the brain. You're not communicating with the rest of your body. Eventually, the lungs started to fill up more and more and more. She wasn't breathing on her own to fight off that infection. She came in with pneumonia. She left this world not with pneumonia. She left this world with a H1N1, H3N2, strain A and B influenza. On top of not knowing that she had leukocytes, bone marrow issues that eventually maybe could have took years, but because of her compromised immune system, it weakened her body, and all those problems that she could have had later down the line and probably fought off, it started to show all those signs of leukemia. They couldn't really, from what I'm getting, they couldn't do a bone marrow or do anything really more to save her life. They basically wanted to take her off life support. Well, why? I didn't understand why they didn't try hard enough to save her life. Because if you go read Marty Volsman's story on shotbyshot.org, that hospital did everything in their power to save their patient's life. They did everything under protocol, safety hazards, HIPAA law, the patient's rights, and made sure that they properly took the right precautions and standards. They wanted to save a life, not lose one. Marty survived, even though he had a heart attack. His lung failed. They brought him and revived him. They gave him a surgery on his heart, and they fixed his lung and made sure that he was able to function all over again. I didn't have any clue about Marty's story until it was brought to my attention by my publisher. Apparently, we both wanted to reach out to one another. My sister didn't survive, but Marty did, and it helped me heal a little bit and understand what my sister was going through when he explained to me everything that he had remembered from this situation. It was a nightmare for not just me, my mom, my niece and nephew, family around us, but also for my wife. Because just a month before, we went there for Thanksgiving, and she gave us her blessing for us to get married. So we started to plan for our wedding. We started planning for our future. But that all came to a halt. Because shortly after, we went for Christmas and she was sick. She looked horrible. She didn't want to take no medicine. She said she would after we left. She just wanted to enjoy the little Christmas that she had at that moment. And I started to feel concerned and scared because of the way that she looked. So I proceeded to go home and travel back to Sacramento from Modesto with my wife, which was my fiance at the time. And I get a call 3 days later saying that my sister was having trouble breathing and that the paramedics was picking her up and taking her to Memorial Hospital. I didn't understand. I didn't know why. I didn't understand how I just saw my sister. She looked like she just had a common cold, or she just looked like she was pale and needed to get some rest. Come to find out, she had gotten a flu shot while she was sick, while her compromised immune system was already into play. So there is a law, SB 277, that actually stops anybody with immune system compromise who can't get a flu shot or shouldn't get a flu shot or is forced to get a flu shot, and they don't force them because of that law, was put out October 2015. So if you out there know anybody that has, any type of kidney problems, heart disease, neurological problems, just different things that are very immune system compromised, you shall not be forced to get a flu shot. Because people like me, my son, my wife, my sister who was immune compromised should have never received a vaccination. It takes people like you around us to save our lives. Ultimately, at the end of this whole situation, my sister was in the hospital for 3 weeks and died February 8, 2015. Everything in my life became crazy. My world became crazy. My world came to an end. I never got to wear my wedding dress. I literally was mortified. I remember the very, very last day when my mom said, "I think you need to get here. The priest is coming in to say the last things to your sister. You need to be here. You need to come." And I remember it taking about, I want to say 2 hours to get there in my mind, or maybe longer, probably like a whole damn day, but it wasn't a whole day. It was just really a 45-minute ride, but it seemed like forever. I remember taking my wedding dress there, never getting it upstairs, and going to my sister's bedside and seeing the most horrific thing I could have ever seen as an individual. 25 bags of saline and medications and the highest life support, and my sister was on dialysis trying to save her kidneys, and her lung had collapsed. She had wires all down in her lung, and I literally panicked. And it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, was say goodbye to my sister. And I remember leaving there knowing that my whole life was going to change, and I knew she was already gone. But for me, I had to take a stand. That hospital was doing the wrong precaution. They didn't even call the CDC. They didn't quarantine that hospital. They didn't quarantine that floor. They allowed people to be subjected to that influenza, which they were. There were more compromised people there. But ultimately, my sister was the first in the Stanislaus County and the first in the state of California to die from 2 strains. And me, Angelina, took a stand and decided that this time I had something to say. So I'm going to end this, and I will be back on another podcast because I only have 45 minutes to share stories with you, and I've been on longer than my time. But now you know a little bit of brief summary of what took place. So thank you for joining, listening, and everybody that supported me on this journey. I will see you on social media sites, videos, and on podcasts talking to you guys again.